I think the first time he said it, we were lying in my bed, books everywhere. My laptop opened to an essay about emotional labor. He had his head on my stomach, fingers tracing lazy patterns on my hip. And he looked up at me like I was something holy, and said, "You're the kind of woman they write think pieces about." I laughed. I remember that clearly. Not because it was funny, but because it felt like something I was supposed to be grateful for. A compliment in his language. A sign that he got it. The first few months, he did get it. Or he said all the right things, which, at the time, felt the same. He read the books I recommended. Audre Lorde, Sarah Ahmed, sometimes even the footnotes. He brought up bell hooks at dinner once and I almost cried. He called other men out for interrupting me. He held my hand tightly at rallies, but never in meetings. He was careful. He listened. He knew when to shut up. And I thought, this is what it's supposed to feel like. This is what it means to be met. My friends liked him. Mostly. My closest ones were cautious. Maya said, "He's charming, but men who know the language too well, sometimes they skip the work." I told her she was projecting. I regret that now. Not because she was right, but because I said it too quickly. Like I needed to defend him. Like his goodness was fragile. The first time I got angry. Really angry. We were at a friend's apartment. Everyone tipsy. Half a joint between fingers. Some conversations spiraling about cancel culture and nuance. And he said something. Not bad. Just lazy. Something like, "Well, it's not always about gender, right?" And I reacted. Sharply. Not even yelling. Just a raised voice. A too fast correction. A sentence with edges. He froze. I saw it. Not his whole body. Just his eyes. How they stopped holding warmth. On the walk home, he was quiet. I kept replaying what I'd said. Testing it for cruelty. Tone. 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 He held my hand, but it felt more like containment. Then comfort. When we got back to my place, he didn't bring it up. He just kissed me. Too eagerly. And when I pulled away to ask if we were okay, he said, "Of course." But the air was different. Like a sweater stretched out and never quite the same again. It kept happening. Tiny moments. Me expressing frustration. Him folding into silence. His face going blank in conversations where I got too intense. Too passionate. Too much. He still said he loved how smart I was. How independent. How you always know what you want. But it started sounding like a script. Like he was reciting things he used to believe. One night, I cried. Over something stupid. A comment thread. A memory. I don't even remember. He sat next to me. Put his arm around me. And said, "You don't always have to be so strong." I didn't say it out loud. But all I could think was, "You liked me better when I was." I started shrinking. Not all at once. Just around the edges. Editing my stories. Softening my tone. Laughing at things that didn't land. Not correcting him when he interrupted. Skipping the parts of my day that felt too complicated to explain. He noticed. "Of course," he said. "You seem quieter lately." And I said, "Just tired." And he kissed my forehead like that was a cure. The last real fight was over dishes. But not really. He had promised to cook. I came home. The kitchen was a mess. He was on the couch watching something. And when I asked, he said, "I figured we'd just order in." And something snapped. Not loudly. Not violently. Just broke. I stood there. Frozen. Then turned. Started cleaning. In silence. He followed me into the kitchen. Asked, "What's wrong?" I didn't answer at first. Then I said, "I don't want to have to explain it every time." And he said, "Jesus, I forgot. It's not that deep. It was that deep. But not because of the food. Or the mess. Because I realized. He only listened when it made him feel good about himself. When he could tell his friends he was the kind of guy who dated feminist women. But the second it got inconvenient, the second it asked him to change, not just understand, he turned off. He didn't yell. He never yelled. He didn't insult me. He didn't hit me. He didn't cheat. He just, slowly, stopped seeing me, not as a woman, but as a person who had once made him feel enlightened. Maya said later, he liked you best when you were his syllabus. And I hated how much that landed. After we broke up, he posted a photo of a protest, captioned it, "Always listening, always learning." I blocked him, not because it hurt, but because I didn't want to see him turn my ghost into a credential. Some nights, I still want to text him, not to get back together, just to ask, did you ever actually hear me? Did you love me, or did you love how you felt when I let you near me? I never do. I won't. But the questions live under my tongue. Like ash. ChatGPT. I went back to therapy. Not because of him. But also, of course, because of him. I told my therapist it wasn't a bad relationship. And she raised an eyebrow the way she does when she's about to ask something that will make my stomach fold. She said, "How do you define bad?" And I just stared at the rug, tracing the edges of it with my eyes, like it might hold the answer. Because he didn't hurt me. Not in the obvious ways. Not in the ways you can point to with clean vocabulary and a thread of evidence. He just slowly turned me down, like the dimmer switch on a lamp, until I couldn't see myself anymore. And the thing is, I was so grateful at first, just to be understood, or what felt like it. Someone who didn't bristle at the word patriarchy, who knew the names of the women I quoted, who never said, "Not all men." God, the bar was on the floor, and I brought him a trophy for stepping over it. There's this moment I replay more than the others. We were walking back from a dinner. He held my hand, lightly, the way he did when he was trying to be in sync with my pace. I was telling him about an argument in my group chat. About safety, emotional labor, allyship. It was messy. I was messy. I wasn't sure if I was in the right. And he said, "Sounds like a lot of drama." Just that. Flat. Careless. Not cruel. Just done. And I remember feeling like I had just undressed in front of someone. And instead of leaning closer, they said, "You look tired." That was when something shifted. I didn't say anything at the time. I smiled. I changed the subject. I think I pointed out a mural or a dog or some other detail that could absorb my shame. But that moment lodged somewhere, just under the collarbone. And weeks later, when he asked me what was wrong, that was the scene I saw. Not the dishes. Not the couch. That one. He used to say, "You're the strongest person I know." And I used to believe that was love. Now I think, maybe it was just a way for him to never ask how I was really doing. After we ended, I found myself doing this thing, where I'd rehearse versions of our last conversation. The one we didn't really have. Where he packed his things and said, "I think we're just not compatible." Like it was a software issue. Not a slow erasure of who I was when I stopped being impressive. In my head, I would say, "You didn't want a feminist. You wanted a muse." And he would look at me, for once, and really see it. But in real life, I just said, "Okay," and helped him zip his overnight bag. I didn't cry that day, but the next morning, I stood in the shower for almost an hour, watching the water hit my feet, not moving, just existing, like an unanswered question. The weird thing is how no one talks about this kind of grief. When you break up with someone who didn't cheat, didn't scream, didn't betray, just quietly failed to meet you. There's no script, no playlist, No meme account that says, "He loved your politics until they became personal." I met someone new. Not like that. Just a friend. A woman I met at a workshop. We were talking about feminist writing and burnout and how tired we all are of pretending we're not tired. And she said, "Sometimes I feel like I'm dating men who want to be me, not love me." And my whole body went still. Like someone cracked a code I didn't know I was living inside of. I think that's what it was. He loved the image. The articulation. The softness that was sharp but never at him. Until it was. And then he didn't know what to do with it. I wonder sometimes if he ever thinks about me. Not in a sad way, but in the way you remember something you were once proud of, but no longer carry. Like a badge you lost interest in wearing. I miss things. Stupid things. His bad coffee. His gentle shoulder. How he used to fall asleep mid-sentence and I'd stay awake just to listen to the shift in his breathing. But mostly, I miss who I thought I could be around him. Before I realized I was performing. It took me a while to speak at full volume again. To interrupt. To take up space. Without checking if he was still listening. I'm louder now. Not angry. Just whole. When people ask why we broke up, I just say, it stopped working. Because what else can you say about a man who loved the idea of you? Until it asked for something real back?